Hey guys, so I saw a Reddit story that was creepy, and I'm planning to read it today. And while I'm reading it, I'm planning to make a base and kind of explore the world since I haven't really explored, and since I'm still in the beginning phase of my Minecraft world. So, yeah, that's the plan for today. So, let's go ahead and get started. The first one today is from r/slash nosleep from the username MidnightArcana. We were given one rule before entering the abandoned subway line: do not whistle. I've spent 6 years working as a maintenance tech for the city's subway system. When I first started, I thought the job was simple: swap out burnt out light bulbs, check the wiring, patch up the occasional water leak. But working down there in that thick, absolute darkness teaches you something real quick. The underground doesn't play by the rules of the surface world. It belongs to a much older, much more brutal reality. My name is Tyler. I didn't take this job out of some romantic love for the underground. I just needed the money, and the pay was good. While normal people walk under the sun during the day, I lose all track of time in the tunnels. Down there, there's no daylight, no clocks, there's only sound, and sometimes the terrifying absence of it. My partner was Miller. He was about 10 years older than me, his hair prematurely graying, his skin permanently stained a dusty subway gray. He knew those subterranean labyrinths like the back of his hand. The strangest thing about Miller was that he never asked questions. It was like he knew that not asking was a hell of a lot safer than hearing the answer. I used to think he was just a coward. Later, I realized it was pure survival instinct. The day they assigned us to the Black Line, the usual locker room chatter instantly died. That name wasn't a joke amongst the transit workers. It was always spoken in hushed, careful whispers. It was a tunnel system built in the 1920s, shut down after an unexplained cave-in, wiped from the official maps, and stamped as a non-existent officially. There was nothing down there. Practically, well, rumors said lights flickered in the dark, and strange noise echoed out. And sometimes the guy sent down there just never came back. Our foreman called us into his office, tossed a yellowed faded blueprint onto his desk, looked us dead in the eye, and just said one thing: there's only one rule down there: absolute silence. No talking, no joking around, and for God's sake, whatever you do not whistle. I smirked. Miller just nodded like everyone else. I figured it was just some old workplace superstition. Acoustics, gas leak risk, pressure differentials. My brain immediately scrambled for a logical explanation. Human beings love inventing logic because it's easier than believing in an unknown looming horror. But the Black Line doesn't care about logic. Me, Miller, and two other techs, Jackson and Lee, were riding a rusty ancient utility elevator down into the dark. The lift rattled and groaned, shaking as if something beneath the earth was dragging us down into its maw. The air was heavy with the smell of ozone and wet, rotting iron. Jackson looked down at his phone screen and snickered. Man, if they have Wi-Fi down here, I might just move in. Save a fortune on rent. Lee gave a nervous laugh. Stay down here for 10 minutes, and you won't even remember what the word Wi-Fi means. Miller didn't laugh. He just leaned against the metal wall, chewing on an unlit cigarette, his eyes glued to the elevator doors. I looked over at him. You're always this quiet? He shrugged. Silence is part of the job down here. Jackson grinned and leaned forward, his voice echoing up the metal enclosure. So what you're saying is, if someone calls my name down there, I shouldn't answer? Come on, that's just rude to the subway goblins. Miller's gaze turned ice cold. Pray that nothing calls you. The entrance to the Black Line was a heavy, riveted iron door. The faded red paint scrawled across it looked like dried blood. Restricted access, structural instability. Jackson slapped the iron door. Classic. Every cheap horror movie starts exactly like this. Lee swallowed hard. Yeah, right. before the monster jumps out. We unlock the heavy deadbolts. The door groaned in protest as we shoved it open. Inside, there was no sound, no dripping water, no airflow, just a total crushing void. It felt as though sound itself had been strangled and left to die in that tunnel. Jackson stared into the blackness, pursed his lips, and suddenly let out a sharp, piercing whistle. The sound sliced through the tunnel like an arrow stretching out into the dark before slowly dying away. I swear, this place is just an empty parking lot, Jackson laughed. In a flash, Miller pinned Jackson by his collar, slamming him hard against the brick wall. Do not whistle. What the hell is wrong with you, man? Jackson shoved him up. Who's gonna hear us down here? The rats? Miller didn't answer. There was deep, paralyzing terror in his eyes, far worse than anger. He slowly turned around and began walking into the dark. The first few hours went by with standard maintenance work. The beams of our flashlights barely cut through the gloom, illuminating thick clouds of dancing dust. Everything seemed normal. Suddenly, Jackson dropped his wrench. He stood up straight, freezing in place. Hey guys, I think someone's calling me. Lee let out a tense laugh. Who's calling you? The collection agency? Jackson shook his head, his face completely pale. I'm serious. There's a voice coming from further down. It's saying my name. From behind us, Miller's voice cut through the dark, cold, and ruthless. Keep working. Do not look up. Ignore it. By the time our break rolled around, we were all exhausted. We sat down in small concrete electrical cutout. Even as we pulled out our lunches, everyone tried to keep as quiet as possible. Even Jackson had gone silent. But then Jackson pulled a pair of orange foam earplugs from his pocket and tried to stuff them into his ears. Suddenly, Miller lunged forward and snapped them right out of his hands. What's your problem? Jackson snapped, jumping to his feet, his voice echoing loudly in the cramped space. Don't push those in. You don't own my ears, man. My head is pounding. I just want some damn quiet. Miller stepped into Jackson's space, standing inches from his face. He spoke so quietly his words felt like dripping poison. It is dangerous to be deaf down here. Sound comes into this place, but it doesn't leave. Do you understand? If they realize you can't hear them, they will come closer. A suffocating silence fell over the room, and then, from right inside the concrete wall we were leaning against, came a faint sound. Tap. Jackson whipped his head around. Did you guys hear that? Tap. Tap. This time it was closer, clearer, like someone was striking the concrete with something hard and solid, like a bone. Then, something else happened. A voice drifted in from the distance. It sounded human, but the words were garbled, mangled. It sounded like someone trying to speak while choking, their mouth packed with dirt. The voice grew clearer. We're here. Every hair on my arm stood on end. Lee took a step back, his flashlight trembling violently in his hand. No way is this real. It's just an echo upon our own voice, right? Jackson, tell me it's a radio interference. Jackson stepped towards the wall, looking completely hypnotized. Who's out there? He yelled. Stop! Miller lunged to grab him, but he was too late. Jackson pressed his ear right against the freezing concrete. 1 second, 2 seconds. The expression on his face shattered. His smirk vanished, his eyes dilated with sheer horror. They say they know us, he whispered. What are they saying? I asked, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would burst. Jackson stared blankly into the void. It's my mom's voice. She's calling my name. She's telling me it's so cold inside. Miller grabbed him by the jacket and violently threw him into the floor. What the hell are you doing? Jackson shrieked. Miller leaned over him, hissing through gritted teeth. They don't want you. They want your answer. You just gave yourself to them. Behind the wall, the noise erupted. It wasn't just one voice anymore. It was several, maybe dozens of people, whispering, letting out wet, raspy laps, scratching their fingernails against the concrete. The tunnel was drowning the sound. We were completely surrounded. Then, instantly, it all stopped, like a knife cutting a thread. A dead, suffocating silence fell over us. Our flashlights began to blink and sputter. And from the exact center of the darkness, from the deepest point of the tunnel, a sound came back to us. It was a sharp, short whistle, the exact same whistle Jackson had to let out hours ago. But this time, someone or something was whistling it back at us, incredibly slow, incredibly deliberate. Jackson's jaw trembled. Tears began streaming down his face. This, this is a messed up prank, he whispered, though he didn't believe his own words anymore. Lee bottled towards the exits. I'm getting the hell out of here. Open the door. Miller grabbed him by the arm, locking him in place. His hand went down to the heavy iron pipe wrench on his tool belt. Staring straight into the darkness, he said something that I will never forget. Do not run. Not yet. If we move now, they will play with us. But Jackson wasn't listening to us anymore. He slowly got into his feet. His eyes were wide, but they looked entirely blank, like a blind man's. He looked right past us, staring instantly into the pitch-black void behind us. My mom is crying. She's all alone. I can't leave her down here, he muttered. He took a step forward, straight into the dark. Jackson, stop! I lunged for him, but Miller threw his arms across my chest, holding me back with a terrifying strength. It's too late, Tyler, he answered. Jackson stepped into the shadows. The beam of his flashlight danced frantically against the brick walls for a few seconds, and then it abruptly died. Just moments later, a wet, sickening sound echoed from the dark. It sounded like someone ripping a massive piece of raw meat away from the bone with a dull butcher knife. There was no other sound. Jackson didn't even scream, just a wet gasp and the horrific crunch of snapping bones. Lee dropped to his knees, clapping his hands over his mouth, but the sheer terror inside him broke through and he let out a piercing shriek. Jackson! Huge mistake. Before Lee's scream could even finish echoing up the walls, dozens of different voices blasted back from the darkness. They were all mimicking Lee's exact voice, but distorted, warped into a demonic mocking pitch. Jackson! 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 A thick, black liquid began dripping from the tunnel ceiling into our heads. Our flashlight died completely. We were plunged into total, absolute darkness. The only thing left was the pathetic, dim beam of a small backup light in my pocket. When I switched it on and aimed it at the floor where Lee had just been kneeling, he was gone. There was no blood, no signs of a struggle, just his flashlight, dropped onto the tracks, still rolling in a slow circle. I froze. I couldn't even draw breath into my lungs. Miller's hand, hard as iron, clamped down onto my arm. We run. No matter what you hear, do not look back. Don't breathe too loud. Run! We bolted back toward the lift. We didn't hear the sound of footsteps chasing us. No, what we heard was much worse. It was the sound of bones scraping down against the concrete, the sound of something slithering against the wall and across the ceiling, keeping pace right above us. When we hit the heavy iron door at the entrance, Miller threw me through the opening, but he stayed on the other side, holding the massive iron door shut from the inside. Miller, get in here! I screamed. He looked at me through the narrowing gap. For the first time, there was no fear in his face, just a bizarre, disturbing peace. I've been part of this place for a very long time, Tyler, he said, and then he smiled. But it wasn't Miller's smile. It was a wide, jagged, completely unnatural grin that stretched too far across his face, and behind him, out of the darkness, dozens of pale, hollow faces materialized. Every single one of them was wearing Miller's smile. He slammed the door shut. The heavy iron latch dropped into place with a deafening clang. I sprinted to the elevator alone, slamming my fist against the button like a madman. As the elevator doors began to slide shut, I heard the heavy iron door below violently splintering apart. All the way up the dark shaft, a chorus of whistles followed me. The sounds gradually shifted, morphing into my own voice, calling my own name up the shaft. Tyler, Tyler, come back down. The official incident report stated that Jackson and Lee were caught in an accidental tunnel collapse. The search and rescue team spent weeks down there, but they never recovered the bodies. As for Miller, when HR went to pull the archives, they found out that no one with the last name Miller had ever been employed by the Transit Authority. The supervisor, his face completely bloodless, stared at me and tossed the paperwork across the desk. Tyler, what the hell are you talking about? Only you, Jackson, and Lee went down to that line. There was no fourth man. I quit the job that very day. I didn't even go back to collect my final paycheck. Now, I live far away from the city, in a small town on the surface where the sun is always shining. I chose an apartment on the third floor, just so I can have solid concrete beneath my feet instead of dirt. I live with a diagnosis of severe PTSD. Antidepressants and sleeping pills are my only real friends now. I leave every single light on at night. I'm so terrified of the quiet that I keep either the TV or the radio running 24/7. Because whenever the world goes truly quiet, my mind drifts back to that absolute void beneath the concrete. Taking the subway or even walking through an underground pedestrian tunnel is completely out of the question for me. If I catch even a faint whiff of damp concrete or rusty iron on the street, my throat tightens up and my heart hammers against my chest like it's trying to break free. I don't see ghosts. Nothing supernatural happens to me out here. But the second I close my eyes, I see Jackson smiling as he walks into the dark. I hear Lee's scream dissolving to nothingness. And worst of all, I see the missing man, Miller, wearing that strange, impossibly wide grin. Honestly, the fact that Jackson actually thought he could just whistle a little tune down there and think that nothing would happen is, I think it's just dumb. Like, the foreman gave you one rule, literally, just one job, and that is to not whistle. And this guy just whistled. Like, what? And then the way that, I don't know what to call it, an entity, like, mimic his whistle, right? And while reading it, since it's nighttime, and actually I heard a whistle like outside of my house, so it kind of gave me chills. But yeah, so I'm sorry, like if I'm down in the pitch black abandoned subway line, and let's say that the mimic or whatever it's called start whistling back, bro, I'm running away. Like I'm tripping over my own boots, running towards the exit. I'm leaving everyone behind. I'm not looking back. I'm going straight to the exit. Like, do you think that I would just stand there and like, whoa, what's that? Like, no, bro. Like, I would run there. I mean, do you think that you would do the same thing if you were in that situation? Or you'll probably do the same as me, right? Like, run away. So, yeah. Anyways, that was a incredible story from Midnight Arcana from r/nosleep. So all of the links of the story is going to be in the description if you want to read it by yourself or check it out. So yeah, so I hope that everyone is like listening or watching right now like enjoys this new content that I'm trying. I'm kind of exploring the way things are, and I hope that people are gonna enjoy this one since I think that this is the most natural state of my voice and overall personality when I'm doing all of these things. So I hope that everyone's gonna support the channel, and I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. But if you did, obviously drop like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.